Welcome to The Explainer. I'm so thrilled to have you here today because we are going to tackle something that is literally affecting almost every single one of us right now. No matter where you're watching from, North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Latin America, you've definitely noticed that everyday costs just keep climbing. Today, we're going to unpack exactly why everything costs more than it used to and pull back the curtain on the hidden reasons driving this massive worldwide trend. Okay, let's dive into this. We've broken this down into 6 parts. We'll start with understanding the price surge, move right into supply chains and energy, and then tackle the big 3: food, housing, and demand. After that, we'll look at wages and central banks, the technology factor, and finally, what to expect next. Section 1: Understanding the price surge. Have you noticed the difference? I want you to think back just a few short years. Really picture it. How much did you pay for a week's worth of groceries? What about a tank of gas, your morning cup of coffee, or your monthly rent? Now, compare those memories with the receipts you're getting today. Ouch, right? For millions of families all over the world, everyday life has become noticeably and sometimes painfully more expensive. So that brings us to the ultimate question. Why do prices keep going up? Is it just the textbook definition of inflation? Are companies just getting greedier? Are we running out of products? Or is there some massive interconnected shift happening entirely behind the scenes? Well, to crack this case, we first need to define our main suspect. And that suspect is inflation, the general increase in the prices of goods and services over time. Think about a loaf of bread. If it costs $2 today, and next year that exact same loaf costs $2.20, boom, that is inflation in action. Now, a little bit of inflation is actually totally normal, as long as our wages go up alongside it. The real trouble hits when prices increase way faster than people's incomes. When that happens, your purchasing power declines. Put simply, your hard-earned cash just buys a whole lot less than it used to.
Section 2: Supply Chains and Energy. The Global Web.
Our modern economy is basically a deeply connected global web. Take the smartphone right there in your pocket. It might be designed in one country, packed with highly specific microchips from 3 different continents, and assembled in a completely different nation before it finally hits the shelves. This incredible interconnected system is super efficient and keeps costs down when things are running smoothly. But it exposes a major vulnerability. A disruption in just one single region, say a factory shutdown or a massive storm, ripples out and affects prices everywhere.
To really get why this happens, we have to trace the journey of a product. Stuff doesn't just magically appear on store shelves, right? It travels through this crazy, complex relay race, from factories to ports and massive cargo ships, onto trucks, into sprawling warehouses, and finally to retail stores. If there is a delay or a bottleneck in any single one of those steps, costs absolutely skyrocket. Suddenly, businesses are paying way more for storage, alternative transport, or rush production. And yep, you guessed it, those increased operating expenses trickle right down to the retail prices you and I end up paying. And this brilliantly illustrates the single engine driving that entire supply chain: energy. Whether it's the massive electricity grids powering those factories, the diesel fueling delivery trucks, or the marine fuel moving cargo ships across oceans, energy influences absolutely everything. When global energy prices spike, almost every industry on the planet takes a hit at the exact same time, which just drives up the final price tag at the checkout counter.
Moving on to Section 3, Food, Housing, and Demand, the Big 3.
Let's start with food. Now, you might think food prices just depend on farming, but the reality is like a giant complicated puzzle. The price of a single apple is shaped by unpredictable weather, water access, the cost of fertilizers, cold storage, and the diesel required to truck it to your town. Plus labor and packaging. A drought or a flood in one hemisphere can instantly alter international market prices. Because food is a daily necessity, even tiny disruptions in this delicate balance hit our wallets immediately. But it's not just about the supply of essential goods. We also have to talk about demand. Consumer demand is one of the oldest and most fundamental forces in economics. When huge groups of people all want the exact same product and the supply of that product is limited, prices inevitably surge. We've all seen this recently, right? The frenzy over new smartphones, popular gaming consoles, certain cars, or those highly coveted concert tickets. When intense competition meets limited availability, the cost is just going to go up. Now, let's look at arguably our biggest expense: housing. Affordability here has become a critical issue worldwide, and it's basically a perfect storm of compounding pressures. We're seeing population growth squeezing available space, soaring costs for construction materials, and just a fundamental lack of land where people actually want to live. Add in complex local zoning regulations and fluctuating interest rates, and it becomes pretty clear why housing costs have become such a heavy burden for so many.
Section 4. Wages and Central Banks, the Balancing Act.
All right, first we have to talk about central banks. They have the incredibly difficult job of managing inflation, primarily by adjusting interest rates. And guys, it is a very delicate balancing act. On one side, raising interest rates slows down borrowing and spending, which cools the economy and helps reduce inflation over time. But on the flip side, this creates higher borrowing costs. It makes getting a mortgage, taking out a car loan, or securing business funding significantly more expensive. Policymakers are constantly walking this tightrope, trying to tame inflation without accidentally stifling the whole economy.
Similarly, there's a tightrope when it comes to our paychecks. It's a super common belief that higher wages automatically make life more affordable. And while wage increases are absolutely fantastic for directly improving a worker's living standards, businesses experiencing those higher labor costs often just adjust their retail prices upward to cover the difference. This means that to genuinely make life more affordable without just triggering a cycle of higher prices, we really need a corresponding growth in overall productivity. Section 5. The technology factor, a double-edged sword.
Historically, technology has been a powerful tool for reducing costs over the long term. Automation drastically increases efficiency. Artificial intelligence is stepping in right now to brilliantly streamline complex global logistics. Improved manufacturing techniques drastically cut down on material waste. And fierce online competition empowers us as consumers with way more choices and price transparency than ever before. But here's the catch. Developing and implementing these incredible technologies requires massive, multi-billion-dollar upfront investments before any real savings actually make it down to the consumer. So while tech is an amazing long-term solution, its immediate impact on prices varies wildly across different industries.
So the crucial point is Section 6, what to expect next, navigating the future. Listen, if you are hoping prices will just magically drop back to exactly where they were a decade ago, economists generally agree that is highly unlikely. Instead, the consensus is that inflation will fluctuate with periods of faster and slower price growth. Future trends depend on a really complex interacting web of factors: overall economic growth, the stability of energy markets, the pace of technological innovation, government policies, and totally unpredictable geopolitical events. Because all these forces interact constantly, economic forecasting is kind of more like a compass than an exact map. Now, while we as individuals can't go out and control global energy markets or international supply chains, financial experts emphasize that there's a lot we can control to build our own economic resilience. These steps are incredibly empowering. Create a realistic budget and actually track it. Build up an emergency savings fund. Actively work to reduce high-interest debt. Improve your financial literacy, and maybe most importantly, continuously develop new, valuable job skills to ensure you remain competitive. Seriously, small, consistent actions here make a massive difference. To wrap this all together, the main takeaway from today's explainer is that the rising cost of living is not driven by one single isolated villain. It's a reflection of a deeply interconnected world where supply chains, energy, consumer demand, and monetary policy all collide. But history is absolutely full of economic challenges, and time again, human economies adapt. We innovate, we find new levels of productivity, and we uncover entirely new opportunities. Ultimately, the future will be shaped by the choices made by governments, businesses, and most importantly, by individuals just like you. Thank you so much for joining me today as we unraveled the hidden reasons behind these global price surges. Now, I want to turn it over to you. Looking at your own community and your own daily life, what do you think is the biggest reason prices keep rising where you live? Is it housing, groceries, energy? Share your thoughts, your experiences, and your local insights down in the comments below. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.